think is that we should have effective regulation. It's hard to argue with that, right? So what does effective mean? It means that if you comply with the regulation, then the risks are reduced to an acceptable level. So, for example, we ask people who want to operate nuclear plants, right? We've decided that the risk we're willing to live with is, a 1 in a million chance per year that the plant is going to have a meltdown. Any higher than that, we just don't, it's not worth it, right? So you have to be below that. Some cases we can get down to 1 in 10 million chance per year. So what chance do you think we should be willing to live with for human extinction? Billion, right? Then you'd expect one extinction per billion years. There's a background. So one of the ways people work out these risk levels is also to look at the background. The other ways of going extinct would include, giant asteroid crashes into the Earth. And you can roughly calculate what those probabilities are. We can look at how many extinction level events have happened in the past, and maybe it's half a dozen. So there's maybe it's like a 1 in 500 million year event. So somewhere in that range, right? Somewhere between 1 in 10 million, which is the best nuclear power plants, and 1 in 500 million or 1 in a billion, which is the background risk from giant asteroids. So let's say we settle on 100 million. 1 in 100 million chance per year. Well, what is it according to the CEOs? 25%. So they're off by a factor of multiple millions, right? So they need to make the AI systems millions of times safer. In humans, we have extremely capable humanoid robots doing everything. And at one point, the parents are talking to their teenage daughter, who's very, very smart. And the parents are saying, maybe you should go into medicine. And the daughter says, why would I bother? It'll take me 7 years to qualify, and it takes the robot 7 seconds to learn. That's a future that, in fact, that is the future that we are moving towards. I don't think it's a future that everyone wants. That is what is being created for us right now. So in that future, assuming that, even if we get halfway, right, in the sense that, okay, perhaps not surgeons, perhaps not, great violinists, there'll be pockets where perhaps humans will remain good at it. You just need lots of them. And, when half of them quit, you just fill up those slots with more people. In some sense, those are jobs where we're using people as robots. And that's a sort of strange conundrum here, right? That, I imagine writing science fiction 10,000 years ago, right? When we're all hunter-gatherers. And I'm this little science fiction author, and I'm describing this future where, there are going to be these giant windowless boxes, and you're going to go in, you'll travel for miles, and you'll go into this windowless box, and you're going to go back and do it again. And you would do that every day of your life until you die. And people would say, you're nuts, right? There's no way that we humans are ever going to have thousands of times a day, and we do it thousands of days in a row, and then we die. And we need to figure out what is the next phase going to be like. And in particular, how in that world do we have the incentives to become fully human, which I think means at least the level of education that people have now, and probably more. Because I think to live a really rich life, you need a better understanding of yourself, of the world, than most people get in their current education. Stop at 50 years, I would say yes. Stop it forever? Not yet. I think there's still a decent chance that we can pull out of this nosedive, so to speak, that we're currently in. Ask me again in a year, I might say, okay, we do need to press the button. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm sort of on the fence a bit about this one. Yeah, I think I'd probably press it. Yeah.
What's your reasoning?
Just thinking about the power dynamics. Just thinking about the power dynamics of what's happening now, how difficult it would be to get the US in particular to regulate in favor of safety. So I think, what's clear from talking to the companies is they are not going to develop anything resembling safe AGI unless they're forced to by the government. And at the moment, the US government in particular, which regulates most of the leading companies in AI, is not only refusing to regulate, but even trying to prevent the states from regulating. And they're doing that at the behest of a faction within Silicon Valley called the accelerationists, who believe that the faster we get to AGI, the better. And when I say behest, I mean also they paid them a large amount of money. Another version of the race that the companies are in with each other, right? That we know that this race is heading off a cliff, but we can't stop. So we're all just going to go off this cliff. And obviously that's nuts, right? I mean, we're all looking at each other saying, yeah, there's a cliff over there, running as fast as we can towards this cliff. We're looking at each other saying, why aren't we stopping? The narrative in Washington, which I think Jensen Huang is either reflecting or perhaps promoting, is that, China is completely unregulated, and America will only slow itself down if it regulates AI in any way. So this is a completely false narrative, because China's AI regulations are actually quite strict, even compared to the European Union. And China's government has explicitly acknowledged the need, and their regulations are very clear. You can't build AI systems that could escape human control. And not only that, I don't think they view the race in the same way as, okay, we just need to be the first to create AGI. I think they're more interested in figuring out how to disseminate AI as one is that I think greed is driving us to pursue a technology that will end up consuming us, and we will perhaps die in misery and starvation instead. What it shows is how difficult it is to correctly articulate what you want the future to be like. For a long time, the way we built AI systems was we created these algorithms where we could specify the objective, and then the machine would figure out how to achieve the objective and then achieve it. So, we specify what it means to win at chess or to win at Go, and the algorithm figures out how to do it, and it does it really well. So that was, standard AI up until recently, and it suffers from this drawback that, sure, we know how to specify the objective in chess, but how do you specify the objective in life, right? What do we want the future to be like? Well, really hard to say. And almost any attempt to write it down precisely enough for the machine to bring it about, an objective which isn't aligned with what we truly want the future to be like, right? You're actually setting up a chess match, and that match is one that you're going to lose when the machine is sufficiently intelligent. And so that's problem number one. Problem number two is that the kind of technology we're building now, we don't even know what its objectives are. So it's not that we're specifying the objectives, but we're getting them wrong. We're growing these systems. They have objectives, but we don't even know what they are because we didn't specify them. What we're finding through experiment with them is that they seem to have an extremely strong self-preservation. So people often ask, well, okay, so how exactly do we go extinct? And of course, if you ask the gorillas or the dodos, how exactly do you think you're going to go extinct? They haven't the faintest idea. Right? Humans do something and then we're all dead. So the only things we can imagine are the things we know how to do that might bring about our own extinction, like creating some carefully engineered pathogen that infects everybody and then kills us, or starting a nuclear war. Presumably, something that's much more intelligent than us would have much greater control over physics than we do. And we already do amazing things, right? I mean, it's amazing that I can take a little rectangular thing out of my pocket and talk to someone on the other side of the world, or even someone in space. It's just astonishing, and we take it for granted, right? But imagine, super intelligent beings and their ability to control physics. Perhaps they will find a way to just divert the sun's energy, sort of go around the Earth's orbit. So, literally the Earth turns into, I'm appalled, actually, by the lack of attention to safety. I mean, imagine if someone's building a nuclear power station in your neighborhood, and you go along to the chief engineer and you say, okay, these nuclear things, I've heard that they can actually explode, right? There was this nuclear explosion that happened in Hiroshima. So I'm a bit worried about this. What steps are you taking to make sure that we don't have a nuclear explosion in our backyard? And the chief engineer says, well, we thought about it. We don't really have an answer. Of, projected dates for AGI. But notice also that those people, I think I mentioned Dario Amodei says a 25% chance of extinction. Elon Musk has a 30% chance of extinction. Sam Altman says basically that AGI is the biggest risk to human existence. Without our permission, they're coming into our houses, putting a gun to the head of our children, pulling the trigger, and saying, well, possibly everyone will die. Oops. But possibly we'll get incredibly rich. That's what they're doing. Did they ask us? No. Why is the government allowing them to do this? Because they dangle $50 billion checks in front of the governments. So I think troubled under the surface is an understatement. I do wish I had understood earlier what I understand now. We could have developed safe AI systems. I think there are some weaknesses in the framework, which I can explain, but I think that framework could have evolved to develop actually safe AI systems where we could prove mathematically that the system is going to act in our interests. The kind of AI systems we're building now, we don't understand how they work. That have been done say, yeah, most people, 80% maybe, don't want there to be super intelligent machines, but they don't know what to do. Even for me, I've been in this field for decades. I'm not sure what to do because of this giant magnet pulling everyone forward and the vast sums of money being put into this. But I am sure that if you want to have a future and a world that you want your kids to live in, you need to make your voice heard. And I think governments will listen. From a political point of view, right, you put your finger in the wind and you say, should I be on the side of humanity or our future robot overlords? I think as a politician, it's not a difficult decision. So, I think people in those positions of power need to hear from their constituents that this is not the direction we want to go.